Hello and welcome to another episode of the UCLA Bruins Insider Podcast. As always, I'm your host, Connor Moreno, lead writer for UCLA Bruins on SI. And today I thought we would start another series, as we have been doing in the I wouldn't say slow off season because UCLA has had a really good off season, but I mean newsworthy in terms of news. Right now, we're not really having much to talk about besides, information we get in training camp, and I'll come out with an episode on kind of the week 2 training camp recap soon. But I wanted to start a new series, kind of ranking and previewing UCLA's most important games this season. And we're going to start with number 12 today. This is a written series as well. If you want to check it out on UCLA Bruins on SI, I've written about I've written about 4 games now. So, without further ado, let's get right into it with number 12. And I do want to preface this series by saying, obviously, every single game is important, especially since there's only 12 of them. But, it's okay to acknowledge that some games hold more weight than others. There's conference games, there's ranked opponents, so on, rivalry games, so on and so forth. So I kind of took that into consideration when I ranked these games. And another important aspect of this ranking is that what I considered is how a game might influence the rest of the season, and how a game might even influence the start of the season. So I really took that into consideration when I did these rankings. And also there's some analyst quotes I'm going to read about the opponent, kind of previewing the opponent. I'm gonna rank them. I'm going to kind of talk about why I ranked them there, and then I'll read what an ESPN analyst said about them going into the season, just so we have a better idea of who the Bruins are facing. So, again, that was a long-winded preview, but that being said, let's go ahead and get right into number 12. I think the 12th most important game of the season is Week 3 against New Mexico. Now, as I said, a common thing you'll notice is that every game holds more, like, some importance in its own right, but some games just hold more weight than others, and this game against the Lobos is no different. The main reason is ranked 12th is because New Mexico is arguably their worst non-conference opponent, probably their worst opponent. I don't know, because New Mexico might be better than maybe one Big Ten team. I don't know. I don't think so, honestly. But, I mean, this is arguably UCLA's worst opponent in the season. The Bruins are going to be favored, but if a few things break wrong and the Bruins lose their prior 2 matchups the week before to Utah and UNLV, I mean, a sudden loss to New Mexico means that UCLA is 0-3 to start the season. So I mean, that's why these games hold more weight, still hold some weight, because UCLA is 100% gonna be favored in this matchup. But if a few things break wrong, if they end up losing, by the way, their first 2 games are gonna be very scrappy games. Utah, Week 1, one of the most important games that I haven't listed on the rankings yet. It's going to be listed pretty high, I will admit that. UNLV, still an important non-conference game in its own right. Dan Mullen's coaching the team. They could be very scrappy. UCLA could just start off slow. Who knows? I mean, but the same can be said for the other side. UCLA could come out the gate swinging, beat Utah, beat UNLV, beat New Mexico, start 3-0, and then go into conference play against Northwestern and start the season 4-0. So, each of these 3 first games I think is very important, especially if you're trying to get a bowl game, because I think right now that's the main goal for UCLA. Starting last season 5-7 or finishing last season 5-7. I think, I wouldn't say the main, but one of the main goals, maybe the lower tiered goal, is to make a bowl game, and I think that's relatively possible given their schedule, despite how good the Big Ten conference is this season. Oh my goodness, I don't know why I'm yawning. I'm not even tired. Yeah, and so just the way I see it is that it's really not far fetched, and I've been saying this pretty much all off season. It's really not far fetched to see the Bruins start 4-0. I think the biggest game is going to be Utah week 1, where if you beat Utah, that's 1-0. You beat UNLV, you might be favored in that game. I'm not too sure. You're not going to be favored against Utah. You beat New Mexico, you're going to be heavy favorites. And you start conference play against Northwestern, where you're going to be favored again. That's an easy 4-0 going into Penn State. Obviously, you're probably not going to win that, but a 4-1 start to the season is all you can ask for, because you're 1 win away from tying your win total last season, and 2 wins away from a bowl game bid. So, yeah, that was kind of why I ranked New Mexico as number 12. It's it's obviously important, but I think it's the least important game of the season. It is the most important if you want to break it down to solely you need to beat the teams that you're going to beat. This is going to be one of the few games that UCLA is favored in. So if you think it's important in that right, then hey, I wouldn't argue about it. And so ESPN's Bill Connolly previewed New Mexico ahead of the season. I'm going to read some quotes from a big old piece that he did on the Mountain West and his section on New Mexico. So, yeah, here's what Connolly had to say about them. I'm a sucker for a Big Sky success story. That means I'm a big Jason Eck guy. Idaho had just won 15 games in 4 seasons back in FCS when Eck took over, but in 3 years he led the Vandals to 26 wins and 3 playoff appearances, 2 of them being quarterfinals. The former Montana State and South Dakota State offensive line coach immediately crafted a solid culture and an exciting product. Now he takes on an even bigger challenge. New Mexico has had 1 winning season in 17 years. Again, going 5-7 last year under Mendenhall was an accomplishment. If Eck finds quick success, it will be because of Big Sky guys. He brought in 11 Big Sky transfers, including quarterback Jack Lane from Idaho, a thrilling running back trio of Damon Bankston, Scott Trey Humphrey, and Deshaun Buchanan combined 2,740 yards last season, and probably Idaho's 2 best defenders in end, Keyshawn James Newby and linebacker Jackson Eck. New Mexico should have great running backs. He also brought in Sam Houston's DJ McKinney, and between guard Richard Pierce, tackle Isaiah Silliman, and 4 senior FCS transfers, the line should at least be big and senior heavy. The passing game is a mystery, but you can see a physical identity forming there. Veteran Spence Nowinski takes over a defense that seems to have upside at edge rusher with James Newby, returnee Gabriel Lopez, and Vanderbilt transfer Darren Agu. And linebacker, where Dimitri Johnson is the most proven returnee. I have no idea about the secondary, but at least the bar is incredibly low after 2 straight seasons, ranking 128th or worse in defensive SP+. So that is the little preview that the Lobos were given ahead of the season. They're very raw. I would compare them to I would say that they're the Mountain West equivalent of last year's Bruins. Just a new guy coming in, a bunch of transfers, trying to reshape the culture after not really being good the last few seasons. But UCLA wasn't always as bad. UCLA wasn't as bad for as long as New Mexico has been. So there is a little bit of a difference there. But yeah, that is UCLA's number 12 most important game. And thanks for watching. Thank you for listening. Tomorrow we're going to come back right away with number 11 unless some other news happens. But yeah, we'll go ahead and see you then. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening to the UCLA Bruins Insider Podcast. We'll see you tomorrow.